do that. There we go. So we are now welcome. We're now recording. Welcome everyone who's listening to the recording. We're just letting people come on in. So if you had a good weekend seeing school friends, amazing. How about the rest of you? What have you been up to? And just let people come in and then get going. But why don't you all start jumping in the chat, let people know what stage of your PhD you're at and which bit of the university you're in. Some of you know each other already, I know, but as we've got a few newbies in the room, that'd be amazing. I'm just going to do a quick shout on Slack to remind people that we are starting. Here we go. Yes, you're starting right up here. Amazing. Yes, this will really help that. I think this is a topic that's useful at every stage, but in that stage where you're sort of moving into being a bit more autonomous, maybe a bit less supervisor time, it's really, really important. What brought you here today, Sarah? Let me just fill up my water. I'm trying to convince myself to drink more water by having a nice thing. We'll see if it works. Some of you will remember when I bought one of these to persuade myself to drink more water. I go through phases. It's fine. Yes, this is not the first new vessel. No, I know, Sophie. It's a little bit like planners, yes. But, you know, can only work on one thing at a time. That was a Christmas present, to be fair. And it was sat in the cupboard looking like prettiness. And I thought, you know what? Maybe that will work. Here we go. Laura is based abroad for writing up. That contact with your supervisor. Well, we can talk about that as well. But yes, thinking about how to look after yourself during that time is absolutely fine. Where are you based, Laura? Yes, and Charlotte is her own supervisor now, post-PhD. Amazing. Laura in France. Fabulous. Good stuff. Okay, let's get going. It's just you five here at the moment. We will see whether some more people, sometimes people come in during this first 10, 15 minutes anyway. So welcome, particularly welcome, Sarah. Oh, Deborah's just come in too. Hi, Deborah, welcome. So particularly welcome, Sarah, first time. I'm Vicky Wright. I used to be a professor at the University of Birmingham, and now I'm a full-time life coach for PhD students and academics. And this is the life coach membership at the University of Birmingham, and we have twice weekly coaching sessions, but once a month we also have these more in-depth workshops. It's going to be 2 hours today. It's going to be a lot of using the chat to interact. There will be some spaces for some one-to-one coaching as we go through, but there's going to be lots of opportunities for you guys to interact and join in the chat. And this is actually the first workshop that I ever designed once I was doing this stuff full time. And I think it's an absolute fundamental. It underpins everything. And we've got people here from everyone from brand newbies through to people who've been with me for really quite a long time. And I think all of you will get different things out of it. So it's exciting. We are also recording. So for anybody listening, please make sure if you're watching this on recording, when we stop and do an exercise or when I ask people to write stuff in the chat, please do try and think about what you would have written if you had been here live. Don't just fast forward through those bits. Try and treat this as though it's live. Obviously, I won't be responding to your comments, but try and write down what you would have said anyway. That just makes the workshops work a lot better. Okay, so We're going to start with a series of questions that I want you to put your answers in the chat for me. So the first question is, why did you decide to come today? What was it about today's topic that you liked the sound of? Hi, Normiati, welcome. Apologies if I'm saying your name wrong. Good to see you. You have come in just in time for our first question, which is, why did you decide to come today? So jump in the chat and make sure it's switched so that it says to everyone, so that everyone can see your answers. And pop your answers in the chat for me. I will let you all know as more people come in. So everyone wants to be better at supporting herself in a more compassionate way. Cool. Okay, so Deborah's identifying some issues there with uncertainties, inefficiencies with time, research, organization, negative thinking. Perfect. So we're supervising and being strict with yourself. Amazing. Wow. We can really think about whether strict is the goal. Okay, Sarah, been doing a bad job. Worried about my supervisor's perception of me. Okay, yourself working without procrastinating or find a way to work more efficiently. We can dig in a little bit more as we go through, Sarah, as to what you mean by a bad job there. And we are to try not to depend so much on my supervisors. Okay, great. So one thing just for clarity with all of these sessions, when we're thinking about you being your own best supervisor, that is not in any way to replace your supervisor or to be able to cope where a supervisor is giving you insufficient attention. So part of being a good supervisor for yourself will be advocating to get the support you need from the people that should be giving it to you. But what it is about is thinking about how can we make sure that we're treating ourselves the way we want other people to treat us, and that we are giving ourselves the support that we want other people to be giving us. Okay. Ginny, you've been worried about having less supervision. You want to learn how to supervise yourself. Perfect. Good stuff. Okay. So let's get specific. What is one specific challenge that you are having at the moment? So if you're talking about, Sarah, you said that you weren't doing a good job. Charlotte, you said that you weren't able to be strict with yourself. What's one specific thing? And Sarah's just come in. Welcome, Sarah. Hi. So Sarah, we're just talking about specific challenges we're experiencing at the moment. What's one thing that you are finding difficult at the moment? Jump in the chat and drop it in for everybody to see. Hey, welcome. Okay, Charlotte wants to get herself to the desk sooner in the morning. Cool. Let's get even more specific, Charlotte. What time are you typically getting there, and what time do you want to get there? Law, waiting for corrections for a few months. Procrastinators, you think the corrections will help you write faster? Okay. I mean, that might be right. What are you procrastinating doing? What are you telling yourself you should be doing during that time? Okay, so Normi, does that mean that you struggle to get going on your work, or that you struggle to stop working when you are working, or a bit of both? Jinyu, two specific things: time management related to driving work, and the other thing is being more compassionate with yourself. Okay, so Jinyu, you are in absolutely the right workshop for the second part of that. We're not going to cover quite so much of the time management related stuff. although we are going to touch on boss mode, which is something that I know you'll be a bit familiar with, but we'll go into that in some more detail. I'm going to remind me in a second to share with you all the links to what you've got access to online as well, especially for those of you who are newer. Okay, so Charlotte wants to start work at 10, 11-ish, but sometimes doesn't get there till 2 or 3. Okay, perfect. So Nomiati struggles to get going and to stop. Perfect. So when I get stuck on something, I tend to switch tasks instead of tackling it. Amazing. Yes, if you're finding it difficult. So common. In fact, my podcast that I'm recording for next week is about 5, 6, can't remember how many things that might be procrastination that you don't know are procrastination. And feeling stuck is one of them. Not recognizing where you need to prioritize your time. A lot of things you think are important in hindsight, you just enjoyed them more. Yeah. Okay. And then I can see you're then beating yourself up for making the wrong choices. Wrong, in inverted commas. Okay. So much to coach on. This is fabulous. Good things to have your head. Deborah's also having distractions like emails and family and things like that. Perfect. Okay, so next question. What habits do you have that make you think you are already not a good supervisor to yourself? All right, he's easily distracted. I know that feeling. Checking your mobile, feeling too tired, procrastination. Why does feeling tired make you not a good boss to yourself, Deborah? By the way, my yawning is not tiredness. I don't think I breathe properly. So Sarah's procrastinating. Okay. So again, how does that relate to whether you're being a good supervisor to yourself? Are you not giving yourself clear instructions? Are you giving yourself too much to do? Are you not giving yourself the information you need? Charlotte's being too soft with herself, choosing other tasks instead. Okay. Deborah makes herself work very late and get up early. Okay. Sarah's easily distracted with her phone, and when you're at home, you go and do other things instead of studying. Perfectly. And Ginny blames and judges herself too much. Yes, Nomiati's agreeing with you. Very, very common. Very not planning out what you need to do properly or trying to switch and do. Need to be more structured, I think. Beautiful. So we will touch on this later. So in this first session, I'm going to divide this 2 hours into 2 chunks. And in the first part of it, we're really going to think about what type of supervisor you're being at the moment and what type of supervisor you really need. And in the second part of it, I'm going to introduce you or reintroduce you to 3 tools that might be useful. And one of the tools we're going to think about later is called boss mode. So some of you who come regularly will have heard about this before, but there's always ways of making your understanding and use of it more nuanced. But for those of you it's new, boss mode is the idea that we can spend time where we elevate ourselves to the position of being our own boss and make some decisions about what we're doing, when we're doing it, what things we want to focus on, what thoughts we want to have. And we'll think about how important that is in a minute. And then we have boss us that makes those decisions. Then we have implementer us who actually has to do those things. And often, especially if we're struggling with procrastination and things like that, we blame the implementer version of us. I don't do what I said I'd do. Okay. And sometimes we have problems of implementation, and we will touch on that. But often the problem is in the boss mode. Often the problem is that we give ourselves unrealistic goals, that we tell ourselves things that don't actually help us, tell ourselves things that don't motivate us, and all of these things. And we give ourselves vague instructions. We don't make decisions, so it's not then clear when we have to implement it. So one of the things we're going to think about in this session is how can we be really clear in those things? And you're going to get a handout after this. It is also recorded, so you'll get access to a YouTube link where you can watch all of this. And in the handout, there will be links to some of my podcast episodes that will kind of follow up some of the things that we talk about today, so that you can kind of go and do those afterwards. Okay. So, what are you good at as a supervisor to yourself? What good qualities do you have? And I will have a look. I know some things came in while I was talking. I'll have a look at those in a second. I'll just give you a second to write. Charlotte's quite organised. Amazing. Yeah, so Law's talking about not planning. Good. Work ethic, organisational positivity. Amazing. Sophie's good at praising herself for doing things. Yes, and we've seen you develop that over time as well, Sophie. Yeah, in fact, those of you who are regulars who've been to this before, one thing you can think of in this is, what have you also improved in the way you supervise yourself over time? You are good at punishing yourself. Okay. Is that a good, are you saying that as a good thing, Noriati, or is that a bad thing? I'm not sure. What do you mean by punishing yourself? Okay. Jinyu's good at giving herself a break. Amazing. Don't underestimate how important that is, Jinyu. I know a lot of PhD students who really struggle to switch off. Okay. Jinyu, for you as well then, what does punishing yourself mean? All of you, anyone who's empathizing with the idea of being good at punishing yourself, tell me more about what that means. Sophie's good at work-life balance. Cool. Sarah's good at finding a balance between family and academic life. Amazing. That's huge, Sarah. Don't underestimate that. Just to check, Sarah, is it Sarah or Sarah? Tell me the first, or like Sarah first, Sarah second. Just let me know. And if it's something completely different, let me know that too. Deborah's good at multitasking. Second one, Sarah. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Charlotte's learned to be kinder to herself. Amazing. Love that. You punish yourself by staying out late when you can't finish work. Jinyu, were you here in a session the other week when I told you I was reading a paper about bedtime procrastination? It's really interesting, about why people procrastinate going to bed. Normally, you have to punish yourself by not letting yourself have some fun. Okay. In times when that means that you make choices that you want to make, i.e., so you can say, you know what, I'm not going to watch Netflix, I'm going to do my work. Or do you mean that you don't let yourself reflect? Oh, don't worry, Jinyu. I didn't expect you to have read the paper. I thought it was interesting. I am going to pull some of it into a future podcast. Sarah's improved empathy towards themselves. Amazing. Cool. Okay. What is one unhelpful thing that you tell yourself a lot? If you listen to the voice that's in your head, what is one thing that you tell yourself that doesn't help? Mine is still, there's too much to do. With all the coaching I've done and all the self-regulation skills I've learned, there's too much to do is still my little voice that pops up. I don't need to do this. Okay. My writing is not good enough. Yep. We've heard you say that one as well, Deborah. Yeah. Sarah, I'm incapable of some of the tasks I set myself. Yeah. Why don't you write too much? I'm not good enough. I'm too slow. So Nomiata, is the sort of interpretation there, I don't think I am able to do all this. There's nothing wrong with questioning whether I'm able to. Jinyu, what's one thing you say to yourself quite often that's not helpful or that you've noticed isn't helpful? That you don't like being at the computer. That's an interesting one. That would make it hard to get to the computer. Noticing how much quicker the thoughts come in than in comparison to things you're good at. Yes, that's why I ask you what things you're good at to try and force you. Yes, she knew. I don't think I can finish this chapter by whatever time. Yeah. And we're going to see in a minute the impact of some of these thoughts. Sarah, that I'm too slow. I read a lot and some I'm doing, but I don't produce enough written material. Yeah. Perfect. Now, what I want you to imagine, and I think some of you have done this exercise with me before, is I want you to imagine a supervisor, maybe your supervisor, but a supervisor standing behind you while you're trying to work and saying to you the things that you sometimes say to yourself. What do you think about that supervisor? So Sarah, they're standing behind you and telling you you're too slow. Jinyu, they're standing behind you telling you that you can't finish this chapter on time. Sophie, they're standing behind you saying you really don't like being at this computer. Charlotte thinks, well, that's just not going to encourage me, is it? Yep. Okay, so Sarah would just be disappointed in herself. Okay. So no opinion on whether that's a good supervision technique. Would you think, oh, what a useful supervisor? Laura would dislike them, get angry at them. Deborah would resent them and feel anxious and sad. Yeah, absolutely. Who just came? Oh, I thought somebody new came in. Sophie's here twice. That's exciting. Hi, Sophie, again. Okay. Because often we say all these things to ourselves because A, we think they're true, right? We think it's true that we don't write fast enough, that we don't get enough done, there's no way we can get things done, and all of those things. So A and two, did I just say? Go with it. So A, we think they're true. B, we think that because they're true, we have to say them to ourselves, or that there's no problem with saying them to ourselves. And C, sometimes we say them to ourselves because we think in some way it's going to make us get on with things. Yeah, if we tell ourselves that we're too slow at writing, maybe we'll write faster. Maybe if we tell ourselves we'll never get this done, we'll work harder and get it done. Except if you think about bosses that have said those things to you in the past, it rarely works. It rarely actually gets you to get things done. Okay. And even when it doesn't in a way that kind of is sustainable and leads to good mental health and like nice well-being while you're doing your tasks. Okay. And what we get to do is we get to notice that these things we're saying to ourselves are not inevitable in any way. We can choose which ones we choose to reinforce in ourselves. It doesn't mean that some of the habitual ones won't pop up, but we can choose which ones we try and emphasize and try and repeat to ourselves. So Sarah can imagine two different supervisors. One says it positively and supports you, while the second keeps blaming you for not being good enough. And which one of those do you think you would work for better, Sarah? Positive one. Yeah. Now, what we sometimes end up with, and we will discuss this as we go through, but I think Charlotte might empathize with that one, perhaps some of the rest of you as well, is sometimes we can imagine two supervisors. One supervisor says, you're not good enough, you need to work harder, come on, you've got to get on with it. And the other supervisor says, oh, don't worry, Poppet, you're okay, you're very tired, you're not really sure what you're doing, why don't you just have a little sit down? Yeah. Often we think these are the two choices we've got. Yeah, devil and angel. Absolutely. Right. We often think these are the two things we can pick from. What we're going to nurture today is a voice that's in between those, a voice that is something that feels good, feels nurturing, feels like it's going to spur us on, but in a way that's sustainable, in a way that's loving, in a way that's firm. Okay. They're not going to, they are not going to indulge your watching Love at First Sight at 2 o'clock on a work day, unless that's part of the plan. But they are going to be understanding if things take longer than you think they're going to. So we're going to nurture this place in between. Okay. Any questions so far? Let me know in the chat if there's any questions. While I'm waiting for that, grab yourself a piece of paper and a pen because we are going to do a piece of reflective writing. And I'm going to encourage all of you to do this. Okay. What I'm also going to share with you guys, some of you who will have seen it already, but I'm just going to remind you about it, is you have got the first 2 sections of my book that supports the 3-month program that I sell separately to this. You guys don't need to buy it because you get this instead. And I will repost that book because it's got some much more detailed exercises that go alongside what we're doing today. Okay, so hopefully everyone has a piece of paper and a pen. I highly recommend you do it on a piece of paper and a pen. There's something about the tactileness of it that is better, in my opinion, but if you prefer typing, then please feel free. What I want you to do, we're going to take 4 minutes. I'm going to grab my phone and do my timer so that we actually do the right amount of time. Put it on a beep up. There we go. We're going to do 4 minutes. And what I want you to write about is what your ideal supervisor would be like. I want you to write in sentences. I want you to actually describe them. Please don't just bullet point this. Okay. I want you to write in sentences. I want you to write what they would be like, what qualities they would have. How would you see those qualities? What types of things would they say to you? How would they treat you? How would they respond to difficult situations? Okay, you can pull from memories of maybe bits of what your current supervisor, bits of past supervisors, parents, friends, whoever it might be, pull from wherever or from imaginary people and really try and vividly describe what your ideal supervisor would be like. Okay. And you could do I'm not going to get you to cut and paste this into the chat. I will get you to pull some details out of it, but I want you to write this just for yourself at first. Okay. If you're watching the recording of this, I want you to do this while we're going to have a 4-minute break now where I'm going to be doing it as well. And I want you to grab a piece of paper. Please do not fast forward through this. Make sure you do this exercise as well. Okay. So what would your ideal supervisor be like in sentences? 4 minutes. Let's go. About halfway, you've got 2 minutes left. And remember, think about how would they respond to difficult situations? What sorts of things would they say to you? Okay, that is time up, guys. So first of all, how did you find writing about that? Did lots of things come to mind? Did it feel long, short? Let me know. Refreshing, interesting. So many things came to mind. Amazing. Because we know what we need, right? We know what feels good. We know what things we'd say to other people. Yes. So, Sophie, especially those of you who come regularly will have heard things that I say, will have heard other people getting coached, heard them talk about what they need for sure. That helps. How about everybody else? It felt short, many things. Yes, absolutely. And so I'm going to quickly pull up just so you can see the kind of scale of it. The book that you guys all have access to, you will has some really quite extensive bits about this stuff. Please don't use it as a procrastination tool, but it will be useful to look at, I think, in at least some detail. Let me find part 1. There we go. So let me just pull up a share screen, and this is for everybody watching on video as well. So here you go. You can see, look at my pretty, I've got your paragraph text in the middle of that. Need to delete that. Anyway, this is the book. I designed that. Isn't it shiny? Happy days. Bit of an intro. This is some of the stuff that we have talked about, and it takes you through. So this is the activity that we just did. But then I give you some much more detailed prompts. So this is something we're not going to spend time on here, but that you might want to spend some time doing. So thinking about how you're a boss to yourself, how do you usually set your goals? How do you prioritize your tasks? How do you manage your time? All of it. Trying to really do like a little review of your self-bossing. Okay, how you speak to yourself day to day, how you respond to yourself, so you really get into some more detail of it. And then we try and summarize that down. When I'm being my best boss, I am. When I'm being my worst boss, I am. Goes through in a lot more detail. Okay, so that's the first section of that book that you guys all have access to. So I'd really recommend at some stage just spending a little bit of time doing some of that stuff, because the more in depth you get with it, the more patterns that you notice. I always write it now. So whenever this is the, I don't even know what, 10th, 12th probably time that I've run this session, and I do it every time, and I still find things that's like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that before. So what I want you to do now, pull up my hand out so I can actually see what I'm doing. What I want you to do now is come up with 3 to 5 keywords of qualities that you want your boss to have. And this is, again, your self-boss. Okay? So I'm going to have a ponder for myself and come up with, let's say 3 words. Let's make ourselves prioritize. Okay. And you can share these in the chat when you've come up with your 3 words, and I'll share mine with you in a minute. And if ever you've been to this with me before, hey, these might be different than before. I don't know. We'll see. What 3 words describe this ideal boss? Honest, clear, and encouraging. Love. Yes. So often we're not clear with ourselves, right? I think that's a really good one. And the others as well, but I really clear, or it doesn't often come up. And I think it's one where we often don't give ourselves clear instructions. We sort of go, oh, I could do this or I could do that. Firm, compassionate, and realistic. Firm's one of mine, Sophie, as well. Let's see whether anybody else gets my other 2. They communicate, they're realistic, they're positive. So we've got 2 realistics there. Sophie and Deborah both want realistic, perfect. And positive, amazing. Proactive, compassionate, and encouraging. Love. Yeah, compassionate again. Compassionate, firm, and motivating. Cool. Is that everyone? Keep jotting them in if you haven't already. My 3 this time were firm, same as Sophie, and same as Law. Enthusiastic. I guess it's similar-ish to encouraging, but I'm quite excitable. I like people that get excitable with me. So enthusiasm is really important to me. And then the 3rd one is complimentary. I'm a child and I respond really well to praise. I like being told I'm doing things well. And it's something that I'm really nurturing in myself and my own ability to say those things to myself. So again, little bit like encouraging. You're writing complimentary. Perfect. Love. Patient, inspiring, and persistent. Love. Interesting. And I want you to notice how there are some similarities in what you guys are identifying, and there's some real differences. And that's really, really true and really normal and really like right, for want of a better phrase. Okay. Really thinking about, what do I as an individual need? Yeah. And it won't be the same as everybody else. I'm not fussed about having an inspiring boss. I inspire myself quite happily. That's fine. I probably need a patient boss there, isn't you? Yeah. Especially patient with me telling them that I'm going to do something. I'm not always doing it. I definitely need them to be patient for that bit. So yeah, different people will have different ones, and that's absolutely normal. We also sometimes need different ones at different stages of our PhD, different stages of our lives too. And that's where it's quite useful to revisit this. One of the things you can do when you're in boss mode is ask yourself, what do I need this week? Okay. I have a whole review process that I use for my weeks and my months and now my quarters. I've developed a quarterly one, which I'll be sharing with you guys towards the end of June. And asking myself, what do I need? So this month, May is determination. I need a determined boss, because I have a bunch of stuff I need to do. I do not need an enthusiastic boss. I do not need a boss who's giving me more ideas or anything like that, because I have things to do. And so I need a determined boss. Okay, so you can also adapt these things depending on what you need. Charlotte wants someone who's complimentary, who's firm, and who's respectful of boundaries. Nice. Okay, so thinking about this boss that has these qualities, what is one sentence that you would hear from them a lot? I'm going to have to ponder on that for myself. Keep doing the best you can. You need to prioritize. Now, Sarah, I'm going to go back up to what did you want from your honest, clear, and encouraging? I'm going to say that I'm not sure you need to prioritize as encouraging. What about why don't we prioritize? Let's prioritize together or something like that. Because for me, it feels a little bit, you need to prioritize. See, you guys, okay, I really want you to look at the difference between the qualities you say you want your supervisors to have and the things you think they're going to say to you. Okay, you are doing well, but you need to do more. Okay, and Sarah, let's compare that back to what qualities did you say you wanted? Empathetic, firm, and encouraging. I'm not sure you need to do more is encouraging. Okay, just have a ponder about whether there's a way to say that more encouragingly. You have to focus on blank, and Sarah said prioritize, but they're pointing you in the right direction. Okay, yes, but let's think about it as like, let's prioritize chapter 1 today. It will be fun to prioritize chapter 1. Okay. And Jinyu, things like, well, again, stop staring at your phone. Sounds quite punitive. This sounds like a shouty boss. Maybe you're saying it in a particular way. I like to nurture the kind of, should we pop your phone over there so that it doesn't distract you? That kind of a voice. Let's pop our phone in the other room and then we can really smash through this. That kind of thing. Your work is valuable and I can't wait to read what you come up with. You can have time to both work and play. Love. Do you believe all of that, Charlotte? You are on the right path. Yes. We so need to hear that, don't we? You have to stop procrastinating. You don't have to start the task. Okay. Yep. So that's it. So what Sophie's doing there, for those of you who haven't been much before, is dividing out the task of getting on with what you're doing. Sometimes we think that we have to stop prioritizing and stop procrastinating and do the next thing immediately. Sometimes it's useful to think about stopping procrastinating as your first job and starting something else as your next job. Again, though, you just have to stop procrastinating. Sounds a little dismissive, a little strict. Should we just turn this off? Yeah, should we just turn this off? Should we just put our phone down? Well done, you've achieved a lot already. Do your best to finish it first draft. Love. Okay. Even if we delayed this chapter, I'm sure we'll finish this thesis on time. Sometimes I believe this, sometimes I don't. When there's a thought that you sometimes believe and you sometimes don't, you can practice thinking it. Is one option, so that you try and believe it more often, try and come up with reasons it's true. Okay, that's one option. Another option is to choose a thought that you definitely believe. Okay, and one of the things that I find really useful, if you are not sure you'll finish your PhD on time, is I would stop thinking about that. Because if you're not sure, then spending loads of time trying to reassure yourself or convince yourself or whatever just wastes time. So if I'm like, I don't know if I can get this all done this month, I'll go, okay, I don't know, but I think I can get this bit done and crack on with that. I think I can do this next bit. Okay. Deborah, don't worry about past mistakes. They're learning tools and activities. Yeah, love. Tell me how my work is adding to the field is not just similar to the latest paper I read that week. Yeah. And if there are similarities, then help you figure out the differences. Oh, it's okay there's similarities. That means you're onto something good here. That means other people think this topic's exciting. But let's figure out how mine's novel. Let's figure out how this is different. Okay. Now, what I want you to have a ponder on, and we're not going to spend too much time on this now, but when you get the handout, you'll have all these questions, is how this voice sounds different to how you usually speak to yourself. I'm sure there are times when you speak to yourself like this, but just think of the difference and what difference that could make to your experience and to the things you get on and do if you could speak to yourself like this more often. Okay. And what we're going to do, and this will be very much revision for some of you and will be brand new for others. So bear with me, but it's always useful. So I'm going to introduce some of you or remind some of you about the self-coaching model, which shows us why these thoughts are so important. So, Sarah, I'm assuming the self-coaching model is going to be new to you. Normiati, remind me whether you have seen it before. I think Sarah's dropped off. I hope she might come back. Law, you've probably done this before, I think. I know the rest of you will have done. So, but we're going to look at, for those of you who have done it before, we will still get to see the kind of the impact of it, the consequences. So hopefully you can all see my whiteboard there. Like that. And hide that. Got too many things open. My computer is carnage. Here we go. There we are. Right. And now where's my pen? There's my pen. So for those of you who haven't seen this before, or those of you watching the recording, self-coaching model has 5 steps. It has the circumstances, which is the factual truth of the situation. Okay. It has, and we're going to put, I am a PhD student. Okay. Sometimes it's useful to have things that are really very specific. We're just going to choose this for now. I am a PhD student. Okay. Then the next part of the model is the thoughts that you are having at the moment. I'm going to say a PhD student with a task. You guys in your own models can put what specific task you're writing on at the moment. Then we have the thoughts, the cognitive story that runs through our head, the feelings, the emotions we experience, the actions, the things we do when we experience those emotions, and the results, which are the consequences of those actions. Okay. So what we're going to do, I'm just quickly going to scroll back up and I'm going to pick a thought that I have noticed somebody having. What should we go with? Where's one that, the ones that you used to say to yourselves or that you currently say? I'm too slow. Let's go with that. So the thought is, circumstances, I'm a PhD student with a task. And the thought is, I'm too slow. How do you feel when you think the thought, I'm too slow? What emotion do you experience? And everyone can join in on this because I'm sure there are times that you have thought, I'm too slow. Those of you who've done this with me a number of times before, feel free to create your own models while I'm explaining this, where you work through your own thought, feeling, actions, and results. And you could pop them in the chat for afterwards, and I'll go through them if you want and give you a bit of feedback on the models. Okay. Yes. Disappointed, discouraged, depression. Perfect. Let's go discouraged. That seems to sum it up. Yes, definitely some panic. Now, remember, there's not a right answer to any of this. So you can put in whichever emotion feels most what's the word, most salient for you. Okay, but if our thought is I'm too slow, we feel discouraged. What actions do you take when you feel discouraged? Not to make the discouragement go away, but when you're in the midst of feeling discouraged. Okay, so Sarah's already got tell self, I'll never get it done. That's one thing she'd do. She knew would not work. Law would procrastinate. Keep plugging away. Okay. From a place of discouragement, Deborah, how does plugging away when you're discouraged feel different from plugging away when you're determined, for example? Because I'm not sure whether that's you acting from discouragement or whether that is you not sort of interrupting the model and not acting out of discouragement. Yes, unrealistic plans, Sarah's saying. So spend a stupid amount of time on some part of it. Unrealistic plans. And I'm going to say odd prioritizing. Yeah, we're picking things that aren't necessarily the most important. Okay. So I'm going to put the keep plugging away in brackets. Yes, because if you still feel, okay, so what you're doing there, Deborah, is you are not acting out of discouragement. We can interrupt the model here. We can accept that we feel discouraged. And by thinking some other thought, like I can keep going, you then feel determined or something like that. And then from determined, you keep plugging away. Okay, so that's rare. If you're plugging away in a way that still feels productive, that's not coming from discouragement. That's something that you're doing in spite of feeling discouraged, which is brilliant. That's a great coping strategy, right? What we're trying to do with these models, though, is what do we do when we're in the midst of feeling discouraged? Okay. And so what I want you to see, we've got the facts of the situation, which is just that we have a task. You know, notice in that circumstance, there's nothing about how objectively fast or slow we are. Our thought is that we're too slow. We feel discouraged. And when we're discouraged, we tell ourselves we'll never get it done. We don't work. We procrastinate. We make unrealistic plans. We prioritize strange things. And the result is always a consequence of these things. And it usually relates back to that thought. What I see here is we make ourselves slower. By telling ourselves that we're too slow, we end up taking actions that make ourselves slower. How does that feel? Especially for those of you who haven't done this stuff with me before, how does that feel? Others, regulars, if you've written your own models, feel free to pop them in the chat now and I will comment on them. So any questions about the models? Anything you want me to clarify, talk about more? Yes. So when we tell ourselves we're too slow, we just get discouraged. We do all of these things. We make ourselves slower. And then, yeah, absolutely, Sarah. What then happens is we use that as evidence to fuel these thoughts and it just keeps going. Okay. So let's have a quick look at Charlotte's here, if you're okay me reading it out. So circumstance, you've just finished your PhD. Yes, nice, clear, factual circumstance. Love it. Thought, I don't need to do any work anymore. Perfect. And you feel apathetic. Your action is that you watch TV, read self-help and sleep. Your result is that you're not doing any more work. Okay, the only thing, Charlotte, that I want to modify, I think it's a really good model. I think you've got your the different parts of it really distinct from each other, which is great. What is it about I don't need to do work anymore that makes you feel apathetic? Because if you genuinely solely believed I don't have any to do any work anymore, and that wasn't a problem, you might feel free, you might feel relaxed, you might feel happy. Okay, so I think there's a bit more to that thought. I don't need to do any work anymore, but I do, or something. Okay, so I want you to have a think about what's the thought that makes you feel apathetic. Okay, anybody else got a model for me to look at? If not, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a model where we put in something different. Okay, so what we're going to do is add a page. How cool is that? We can have our circumstance, thoughts, feelings, actions, and results. Our thought is the same, PhD with task. Okay. Our circumstance, sorry, is the same, PhD with task. And this time we are going to add a thought, like we're not going to miraculously believe that we're fast. So, because we're not going to make up stupid thoughts that we don't believe. So what about something like every step is a step closer? Okay, so we still think we're slow, but we're telling ourselves that every step is a step closer to done. Okay, what feeling does the thought every step is a step closer to done make you feel? Encouraged. Okay, what else? Motivated. Hopeful and motivated. Yeah, let's go encouraged. And lots of you said you wanted to feel encouraged. Okay, what actions do you take when you feel encouraged? Yes, do the next task. Yeah. Yeah, get stuff done. Deborah, I love that so much. I'm going to put it in capitals. Zest. Yes, because what we're not doing, you talked about plugging away before. If we're telling ourselves, every step is a step closer to done, we're not kind of going, oh, got to chug it out, got to chug it out. It's like, oh, I've done this step and now I can do this step. Yeah, we start to actually get the next steps done, but in a way that's kind of zesty and something towards enthusiastic, or at very least sort of purposeful, rather than kind of bored and trudging it out. Yes, it's easier to get on with the next thing. And the result is we get more steps done. Okay. We get more steps done. So that's a consequence of this action. As you can see, it also relates to that thoughts. Okay, we get more steps done and we enjoy them because we're saying nice things to ourselves while we do it. We're also recognizing that we've got stuff done, which, same as Sarah talked before about the negative circle, that creates a virtuous circle where, as we recognize we get more steps done, we're more likely to believe and to tell ourselves that every step is a step closer to done. Now, I have to be careful with this circle, just to put it out there, especially if any of you in the room have got ADHD. I have to be careful with this circle because sometimes this leads into frantic action for me. When I get like, yeah, I've done this and now I've done that and I'm so productive, I can do this and I can do that. And it kind of eventually gets a bit overexcited and then I run out of steam. And that's where, if I'm tidying my house, everything kind of stays in chaos. So you can have to be careful of these circles sometimes. But generally speaking, when we're giving ourselves thoughts that make us feel encouraged, we're more likely to take the actions we want to take, which creates results that then make it easier to believe those thoughts too. Okay. This is why it is so important what we say to ourselves, because everything we say to ourselves generates emotions, and those emotions are what drive our actions. And if we can remind ourselves to say more of the things that generate emotions that help us to both get things done and enjoy the things that we're doing, then so much the better. Okay. These things don't have to come habitually to you. We can consciously remind ourselves, these are the things I need to hear. These are the things that generate the emotions that I need to do the actions I'm going to take. And we can kind of consciously create them. Okay. Let me just close down the whiteboard in 2 seconds. Close whiteboard. There we go. Now, Charlotte, we're going to go back to yours a second because I'm still not convinced on your model. Having a thought, I don't need to work anymore and I should be doing more. I think there's more to those thoughts. I think you need to do a thought download. So for all of you who haven't done that before, thought download is where you really dump out your thoughts to try and really figure out what's going on. I think there's something around either that you should be doing things but you don't wanna, or you should be doing things but you don't think they're gonna work, or that you're not sure what you should be doing. I don't know. Try and thought download, try and dump some thoughts down after this to try and really get what it is that's making you feel apathetic. Okay. Perfect. Right. Let me get my handout back out. Here we go. So what we are going to do now, we are going to take a, but I think you need to do work, Charlotte. That's the bit that I want you to thought download on. Let's not speculate about it now, but just spend some time really journaling on that stuff yourself. Okay. Right. It is 3:34. We are going to take a 5-minute break. So we will come back at 3:40, let's say, and I have 3 tools to help you to really sort of nurture this new supervisor in yourself. Some of you will have heard some of them before, but we can really sort of nuance them and adapt them for yourself. Others, they will be brand new and will give you lots of ideas of things that you can work on. So I'm going to turn my screen off. Those of you who are watching on record, again, go and have a break. Get a glass of water, get some sun on your face if you can. Jinyu, yes, I will post the recording after this. I'll try and do that more quickly than I usually do. And then after we've had those 3 talks, we are going to have some time for one-to-one coaching. Those of you who haven't done that before, that means that you will volunteer if you wish. You'll appear next to me as if by magic. We'll do one-to-one coaching while other people watch, and you'll get to see other people getting coached as well. Okay, so I will see you back here at 3:40. If you have any questions during the break, just drop them in the chat and I'll get to them later. Said all that without breathing. I'll answer your questions when we return. See you soon. Hello, hello. How are we all doing? Are we back? I know we lost you and you. Are other people there? Let me know. Yay, Sophie's there. Perfect. Let me fill up my water. Hopefully other people will come back too. Sarah's back. Sarah's here. Amazing. Good stuff. So, like I say, the first session was really thinking about this notion of being our own best supervisors and starting to think what that could look like. Okay, what types of qualities do we want to nurture in ourselves? And what types of things do we therefore need to say to ourselves? We then use the self-coaching model to understand the kind of the impact of that, why what we say to ourselves is so important. And especially for those of you who are newer to all this work, that really underpins everything we do. Others of you have had a lot more practice of using that through your time in the membership, but getting reminded of why those things are so important and how important it is to really unpick what that thought is that's causing the problem. So that's why, for those of you who don't know, Charlotte's one of our regulars. That's why I was digging in a little bit more detail with Charlotte, because as you get more practiced at this, then you get a bit more like, but why am I apathetic? What is going on? What are the thoughts here that are making me feel apathetic? And we get to kind of really dig into that a little bit more. So that's why I pushed it with Charlotte, just because I know she's familiar with this work. So in this second half, well, first of all, did anybody have any questions from the first half? Anything that wasn't clear? Any reflections or sort of like thoughts, take-home messages or anything? Let you have a moment. Okay, so we're now going to go on to 3 tools that you can use to be a really good supervisor to yourself. And the first one is putting yourself in boss mode. Now, I touched on this briefly before. And for some of you, this will be a brand new idea. For others, I'm going to be helping you to develop the kind of nuance in it a little bit. So boss mode is this idea that we lift ourselves out of ourselves and we start to think of ourselves almost in the third person and think, what does Vicky need this week? Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I have my little yellow book of power where this is where I make notes about all these sorts of things. I meet with my sister on a Monday morning to talk with her about all of this stuff. And what I was really reminding myself is at the moment, I need determination and I need a recommitment to my systems. So I have a lot to do at the moment. I don't have space for new ideas and all that sort of thing. I just need to sort of implement on things. And so the sorts of things that I'm saying to myself a lot at the moment when I'm in boss mode is that I need clear systems. I need to know exactly what the thing I'm doing now is. And I need to remind myself that this is the plan. You chose this is what you wanted. And, this is working. Let's keep going. This kind of sort of dogged determination. Okay. And that's what I spend some time on a Monday morning thinking about is what do I need to hear this week? What do I need to be saying to myself this week in order to kind of do the things I want to do and have the week I want to have? So there are other elements of boss mode that we won't cover today that are around planning your time and energy. And if you're interested in those things, I can refer you out to specific podcasts where we talk about them. So when I'm in boss mode, I also do my role-based time blocking. I also use my task management system and all those things. So there's a kind of project management side to boss mode. And there's a bunch of resources for you guys about that stuff. But this side of boss mode is really where we think about the kind of the human person that has to do these things. What does she need? And how can I make sure as a boss that she gets those things? So what I want you to do is I want you to think about if you were supervising you as a student, okay? So you exactly as you are right now, either as a student or as an immediate postdoc, as some of you are, I want you to think about what would that boss kind of ponder through, okay? And I want you to think about how you can spend time figuring out, how do I reassure this student? What advice would I give them? Okay, so we're putting ourselves into boss mode. What I'm going to do, I'm going to give you 4 questions. You can pick just one of them or do more than one or whatever. Okay. Oh, Charlotte's only just back. No worries, Charlotte. You can watch it on the recording. I actually talked about you behind your back, but it was all positive, so don't worry. Didn't know you weren't there listening. I want you to put yourself in boss mode now. Think about something that you're doing. Don't worry at all, Charlotte's all good. Put yourself in boss mode. Think back to the thing that you're finding challenging at the moment. And I want you to ask yourself one of these 4 questions. How could I reassure myself? What would I suggest that I do? So if I was my boss, what recommendations would I make? How can I make it easy and clear for student me, implementer me? And what would I say if student me is still finding it difficult? Okay. So we get to spend time thinking about, how can I help this person? How can I help me? Okay. So just take a couple of moments to think, if I'm being the compassionate, firm, and encouraging boss, or whatever it was that you decided, what advice would I give myself? How can I make it easy and clear for them? Okay. Perfect. So lots of reassurance there. In fact, I'll give you guys a second to think for yourself, and then I'll go through the answers. Otherwise, you'll be trying to listen and write at the same time. So let me just give you a couple of minutes. Okay. Drop your thoughts in the chat as you come up with them. Okay, let's start looking through these. Calm down, keep going, kind to yourself. Do the best you can and look forward. Love. Our student me, what's the first step? Can you manage that? If not, can you break it down? Yes, getting really clear is a great one. How do you feel? What tasks do you need to do? Yeah, so really getting to know where you're at, taking time to listen. Okay. In fact, that's one for you, Deborah, thinking about if your sort of go-to is calm down. Remember, one thing can be useful is to listen to yourself as well. What's the problem? No, what's really the problem? Just tell me what the real problem is here. Why are we getting all worked up? Okay. How can we break this down so they feel manageable? Is there anything I can do to support you? I love that. Is there anything I can put in place that's going to make this easier for you? You can be confident going forward. Look at the fruit you'll gain by the end of this journey. Perfect. Sarah, one thing that you can really do with that is to remind yourself of the fruit you've already gained. Okay. We can tell, look, you're going to be so proud of yourself when you get to the end of this, kind of reminding yourself of that. But one way to do that is by reminding yourself of what you've already done. In fact, if you guys, I'll post the link to it in case you're not, for people who are in my I have a free community that's sort of separate from this, and you get a newsletter every week from it. If you're in that, one of the things I talked about this week is how my stepdaughter's doing GCSEs and how big a deal that felt at the time and how little I think about it now. And how often we go through these huge achievements and then once they're done, we never think about them again. Okay, so one way to remember that you'll appreciate the fruits at the end of the journey is appreciate the ones that you've accumulated so far. Remind yourself of your internal goal. Yes, absolutely. The progress you've made so far is okay. Work out where we're going to go next. A quick schedule, a checklist. Yep. So one thing there, Sarah, and I talk about this in my what to do if you've got too much to do talk, is if you're feeling overwhelmed, pick the next thing. Okay. That's not the time to start doing a massive task overhaul system. Pick a thing, quick schedule, quick thing to do. Let's go. Okay. Make it really clear. Are there any resources I've not taken advantage of? Yes, love it. Are there courses? Are there people who know how to do this? Are there ways to make this easier? Amazing. Deborah's got to take the puppy out. That's okay. That's a very good excuse. Okay. So when we're in boss mode, we get to really sort of decide, how can I help this person? We're thinking about them in this loving, separate way where we're like, oh, we got this person and we love them. We know they're really well intentioned and we really want them to do well and they're really capable. But I worry about them sometimes, and we think about how we could support them. Okay. Now, because you guys are kind of an advanced group, I want to introduce you to two different types of boss mode. There's scheduled boss mode and there's responsive boss mode. And you can try and introduce one or the other and then bring the other one in later. So scheduled boss mode is where you actually spend part of your week where you are scheduled. So I mentioned Monday mornings is my boss mode. I figure out where I'm at with my tasks, where my week's going, what I've got coming up, where I am against all my different goals. What do I need this week? How can I support myself this week? How am I going to use my strengths? All those sorts of things I do on a Monday morning in a kind of scheduled way. So you can do that. That's the sort of scheduled version. But you might also want to try, or separately, try responsive boss mode, which is where you're just finding that you're just not doing the things you thought you were going to do, or you're feeling confused. Oh dear, yawns. You're feeling confused, or you notice you're procrastinating or whatever. You can kind of go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Boss mode. We need some boss mode. What is going on here? Okay. And again, we do it in a loving, nurturing way. Okay. So you can either schedule time in for this once a week, every morning, whatever works for you, or as well as really, you can put yourself in boss mode at moments you need it. One period of time that I love to do a responsive boss mode is kind of mid-afternoon, when I can hear myself start telling myself that I haven't done enough today, I've wasted the day, I haven't followed my schedule, I didn't do the things I said I'd do. And I get into a little bit of a bug because I'm like, you're going to be able to do this stuff. You're a coach. Come on. I like to put myself in boss mode at that point and ask myself things like, how can I make this day a win? What could I do in this last hour that would mean I'd finish this day going like, actually, that was a pretty good day. Actually, I got that thing done in the end. Yeah. So when I notice that I'm getting into a bit of a today's rubbish, I'll try again tomorrow kind of mood, lifting myself out, going into boss mode, and knowing that when I'm in that mode, what I need is a quick win. What could we do? What's one task? So you guys caught me doing it last week. I finally posted all the courses on YouTube from the rest of the academic year. That was me catching myself on a day where I was grumpy about things that I hadn't done and stuff. And going, you know what? I can do that one thing that I've been feeling guilty about. I can do that. Let's get that done. And then I was really chuffed with myself. I got to tick it off my to-do list and everything, where it's been for ages. So it's nice. Okay. Questions about boss mode? Let me know in the chat. Any comments, any skepticisms, worries, things that are unclear? All good. I'll keep an eye out for questions. Okay. Second tool. Again, I think some of you heard this one. Nora saying boss mode is really interesting. I love it. Honestly, I think it underpins pretty much everything else I do. Okay. If we can master this art of being a boss to ourselves that says nice things as much as possible, and who organizes things in such a way that it makes it really nice to do, makes it really easy to do, as clear as possible what the next step might be, then we overcome everything. Okay. So Charlotte's saying, good, I like the idea of what's one thing you can do to make today a win. Absolutely. Starting the day with that is a great one too. But yeah, definitely, especially Charlotte, you were talking about sort of not getting started on work until later and being a bit annoyed about it. Being like, okay, I'm starting work at 2 o'clock, but what can I get done between 2 and 4 that's going to be wicked? Okay, such a different vibe than, I should have started at 10, I'm so lazy. Okay. Law says, I find schedule boss mode easy, amazing, helps you plan your day. Don't underestimate that, Law, that's huge, brilliant. I find it difficult to think about boss mode when I'm struggling and procrastinating. Yes, absolutely. And this is where I want you to think about all of these things as a practice, right? I am not perfect at all of these things by any stretch. I still have bug times where I'm just feeling like about things. But what you start to do is you start to notice a bit quicker. Okay, so if you're right in the midst of struggling and procrastinating, Law, maybe you don't think about it at the moment, and that's okay. But when you're starting to come out the other end of it, or you're starting to think, oh, I really need to do something now, those are times where you might think, oh, what would my boss say? What would my best boss say? Okay. And what happens is you just get slightly faster at noticing and slightly faster at making the change of putting yourself into boss mode and thinking of those things. Okay. I still have quite a lot of times where I'm just like, I haven't done enough, or I need to do this and I don't feel like it, or whatever, but they don't last as long because I notice more quickly and I'm better at pulling in the voice that then helps me feel a bit better. So I don't eliminate any of that stuff at all, but I resolve it faster than I used to. Okay. If there's other questions, keep them coming in the chat and I will get to them. But I'll introduce you to the second tool, which is toddler talk. Some of you may have heard this analogy before, but I want you to think about if you were trying to get a toddler to clean their teeth. Okay. It's a really cute toddler. We love this toddler a lot, and we really want them to clean their teeth. Okay. I want you to imagine it's maybe your friend's kid or something like that. It's a niece or a nephew, someone that you feel like you're going to be kind of nice to. They're not just your own kid, but you really want them to clean their teeth. What things might you say to them to get them to clean their teeth? Have a think. Those of you, I think we've got some parents in the room. Those of you who have kids, give us your best experience. Those of you who don't have kids, give me your smug ideals as to what you think you'll say, even when you have children. How do you get a toddler to clean their teeth? Your little mouth will feel so happy after you brush your teeth. Oh, Deborah, you are too cute. I love that. I want to go and clean my teeth now. My little mouth is going to feel so happy. Show them how to do it. Love. So making it really clear what they're doing. Praise them immediately when they do it. Give them some choices. Do you want to clean your teeth before or after washing your face? Yes. So sort of limited choices, but some autonomy. Love. Bribes, brush your teeth, and then you can whatever. Yes. Might not create long-term motivation for their clean their teeth, but it might get it done in the meantime. Yeah. Yep, your teeth will look brighter. So emphasizing the benefits. Let's brush them together. Yeah, making it something that feels collegiate, where it feels related. Yeah. Ways to make it. Have you ever done like songs or games or anything like that? You know, have you ever done the like speed tidy up, you know, that you need to get them to tidy their room? Let's see how quickly we can get everything in a bucket or whatever. You know, we make it a game, we make it fun. What I want you to notice, do you remember at the beginning we said that we were going to find a voice in between the two extremes? None of you have suggested that what we do to make them clean their teeth is remind them how useless they are, remind them how naughty they are, and tell them this is just one more example of why they're rubbish. Okay? We haven't done that. But equally, none of you have said, I'd just tell them not to bother cleaning their teeth. It's fine. Now, I accept, don't get me wrong, there may well be times that occasionally happens, but that's not going to be our go-to, right? That's not going to be our main thing we do. Is if they say, I don't want to clean my teeth, you go, oh, okay, yeah, don't then, that's fine. Yeah, we don't go here. Yet often when we've got a piece of work we have decided we're doing, that's what we do, right? We either tell ourselves, you have to do it. You're so behind, you're never going to get it done if you don't. You have to get on with it. Yeah. Or you say, oh, well, if you don't really feel like it, let's try again later. But there's all this place in the middle, reminding ourselves why we're doing it, making it clear, making it step by step, reminding ourselves, you know, what benefit we get from it, doing it with somebody else, making it feel a bit fun, making it feel very achievable. Even just doing a little bit of it. With my nieces, one of the things, let's just do these ones. Yeah. Even if we don't go any further, I mean, hell, I do this with myself with flossing. Just floss some of them. If you can't be asked to floss them all, just floss some. Flossing some is fine. Same as just getting some things out the dishwasher, which I think I've shared with you guys before. Let's just do some. Yes, get rid of germs, play to things they know about. Okay. So remember, if you were with a toddler, you wouldn't be telling it it's rubbish, and you wouldn't just be indulging it. You would be using your imagination to figure something out in between. And we can do that for ourselves. So that's technique 2, is toddler talk. It's kind of a subcategory of boss mode, but it's a way of finding that voice. Okay. Fun, enthused, but firm. Okay. We're not taking any crap here. We're not just going to not clean our teeth, but equally, we don't have to make it painful for everybody involved. Okay. Final thing on that, always, this stuff takes some self-regulation. It takes some energy. If there are times where you find yourself just telling yourself you're rubbish, or just being like over compassionate, indulgent, and going, oh, I can't, that's fine. That happens too. It's okay. All right. There's nothing massive going wrong here. But when we've got the energy and the will to kind of try to boss ourselves a bit better, this sort of toddler talk is a really good way of doing it. Okay. The final one that we haven't talked about is acknowledgement. Is saying, this is one of my favorites. I use this on myself all the time, which is, I know you don't want to do this. That's okay. We are going to do it though. Yeah. So you're not trying to convince them that they love it. We're not trying to convince them this is the highlight of their day. We're saying, yeah, I'm listening to you. I know it's not that much fun cleaning your teeth. I get it. You'd rather be watching TV. That's fine. We are going to though. So should we crack on? Yeah. So that's another bit of toddler talk. The third thing, and again, subcomponent of boss mode, but it's a specific tool you can use, is called barrier anticipation. Again, this comes out of the psychology of behavior change literature. This is the idea that we know what things are likely to trip us up. When we're trying to change our behavior, when we're trying to start work earlier, or we're trying to get going on a piece of writing that we find difficult, or whatever it is, we know there are going to be specific things that trip ourselves up. One of the things we can do when we're in boss mode is anticipate what those barriers are going to be and plan for them. Okay, so if we know our kid's going to moan about cleaning their teeth later, We can make sure we've got fun tasting toothpaste that we know they like, or we can make sure that there's a toy in the bathroom that can distract them. We can tell stories with it while they clean their teeth or whatever it is. Yeah, we can plan for these barriers. So I want you to think about something that you have got to do or you have chosen to do, let's say this week. Let me know what the thing is and what barrier could prevent you from doing it. It could be an internal barrier, things that you're telling yourself, or it could be an external barrier, like, getting interrupted by your kids or whatever. Okay, let me know in the chat. So Deborah, I want you to separate out what's the task you want to do and what's the barrier that might make it difficult. Okay, Sophie's task is sticking to role-based time blocking, barrier more scout admin than anticipated. Okay, so Sophie, what you can start pondering on is, having anticipated that barrier, what can you do about it now? Okay, what about other people? Task and barrier. A task, complete writing and say excellent. Yes, so a bit more separated out. Barrier, behind schedule, research analysis taking longer than expected. Perfect. Deborah, what I'm going to add to that is, I think the biggest barrier here is you telling yourself you're behind schedule. Okay, because as soon as you're telling yourself that you're behind schedule, you're going to feel something like discouraged, and we saw what happened with that model. Okay, so what I want you to do in terms of addressing this barrier, I don't want you to think about how you can get yourself back on schedule. I want you to think about, how can you manage the fact that you keep telling yourself you're behind schedule as your barrier. Okay, Sarah, I've got to turn some data into something resembling a graph. Love it. And the barrier is you barely know any R, and your ideas and attempts haven't worked so far. Stop, do some other easier task at some point out of frustration. Perfect. So what could you do instead? Anticipating the fact that you are going to find this difficult and that you are telling yourself you don't have enough information. I have no idea if you have enough skill or not to do this, but you're telling yourself you don't have enough skill. What could you do to make it more likely that you'll make progress? Sarah, you need to finish a chapter, but you've got molar pain. Okay, perfect. So you get to decide in advance, how are we going to deal with that barrier? So for all of these, you get to say, okay, I can see a barrier is. So for Sarah, first thing I want you to distinguish is it true you haven't got the right skills? Because if it's true you haven't got the right skills, and that's a sort of objective barrier, then how can you overcome that? How can you find those skills? How can you find the support that you need so that you don't get stuck? On the other hand, if actually it's something you can probably muddle out, what can you do to make it more comfortable to spend time muddling it out, or to make yourself willing to be uncomfortable? Okay. Sarah, for example, if you've got molar pain, I want you to really seriously think about to what extent you want to be working this week. Because you may decide that when you've got tooth pain, you just aren't going to work, and that part of your self-care is not doing it. If that's not part of it, how are you going to manage the pain, and how much work are you going to expect of yourself while you're experiencing that pain? Okay. So Charlotte, go through chapter 2 and chapter 3 for notes. Perfect. Bullet point. Love the specificity there. Bullet point, 3 possible arguments. Amazing. Review what they have already put. The article: barrier, delay in going to the desk for anything other than meetings, networking, and tutoring. Choosing to other living room tasks instead. Perfect. So how do we overcome that barrier? And I know this is something you've been battling with for a while, but let's speculate on what options you have to do that. Okay. First one that comes to mind is, I mean, you could just not work from your desk. You could do all of those things in the living room. If the challenge is getting to your desk, why not do it somewhere other than your desk? Okay. There's lots of other options, but that's just a thought. Sarah, there's an art book in the library. I could check it out, spend some days working through that. Or I could throw on some 10-hour generic energetic music track on YouTube and power through it with Google. Perfect. And so you get to pick, right? And there's not a right answer. You could decide that actually, okay, this is Monday afternoon. Tuesday, I'm going to do the 10-hour energetic music thing, see how far I get through it. And if that doesn't work, I'll go back to basics on Wednesday. Or you could decide on Tuesday, I'm going to do some exercises, kind of get in the flow, see what I can figure out, and then we'll power through on Wednesday. You can do a combination of these things. But by looking ahead and predicting what barriers we're going to have, you can start to pre-plan for them. Okay? Perfect. What I want all of you to do is I want you to identify one kind of take-home thought or intention from this workshop. I am going to coach one person, but I want to get this from you before I do that. So stick your Zoom hand up if you are interested in having one-to-one coaching. And everybody put at least one kind of take-home message or intention from this workshop. And there's 8 of you in the room. I would love to have 8 hands up. So unless there's a specific reason that you can't be coached, I think you should all put your hands up. I'm really kind if you haven't had it done before. It's really nice. And it feels very private, even if it's just, and I'll turn the recording off if you would prefer. So that's one thing I will ask before we start. You can either stay in the recording and then people will be able to see what you've talked about, which people always appreciate, but I don't want anyone to get put off by that. So if you are willing to be recorded, then you can just let me know. And if not, I will drop it off before you come on. Okay, Laura, there's a bunch of online courses. Yes, absolutely. Yes, Deborah, telling yourself it's okay to revise the schedule as long as it's sent before the next meeting. Yeah. A thought that helps me a lot with those sorts of things is I am where I am. This is now the schedule. Okay. Once you're behind schedule, you are now, this is just your schedule now. Okay. So what needs to happen now? Okay. How about everyone else? No, we're just going to practice boss mode. Love, 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 love. Have a think about when might you slot that in. We've kind of missed the Monday morning slot, but you could do Tuesday morning. That might be nice. Have a think. And who wants coaching? Let's get some hands up. The take homes and intentions. If you're watching this on recording, make sure you are also picking something that you are going to try and work on. Okay, it's really easy to, especially if you're watching on YouTube, to watch something like this while half-assedly doing something else. So if that's you, you're checking your emails over there while you're listening to me. Focus in for 2 seconds. Pick one thing that you're going to really try and practice and have a go at doing. So what we want to do is we want to translate these activities, these coming to trainings into actual change in your life. Charlotte's got tutoring, no worries, not a problem. Take a message, compliment yourself and remind yourself the benefits of doing the work, and you're going to do your thought download. Love. Good to be reminded of toddler talk. Yes, barrier anticipation is one of your existing strengths. Love that. Love that you are identifying things that you are good at. Sarah, try boss mode, plan out your week, your meal plan. Try and get one thing done every day where I feel like real progress. I love that. And what I really love, Sarah, is that you're not saying, and I'm going to plan out every minute and it's going to be amazing. It's like, I'm going to pick one thing. Okay. And I'm going to try and do that. Love. Okay. Who wants coaching? I do have one person with their hand up, but I'm also very aware that having just gone through the recordings of the workshops, I think I've coached you on the last 2 workshops. So it's going to slightly look like you're the only person I ever coach, which isn't necessarily a problem if nobody else wants coaching. And I always like talking to you. But Law, Normiati, Sarah, any of you interested in being coached as people that I don't speak to quite as much? I promise it's not scary. So, Sarah, yes, what I will do, it would be seen by the other people who are live on the call, but I would turn off the recording if you would prefer. So what happens is you get one-to-one coaching, other people get to watch, and they get to think about how can they learn from the things that you're talking about. So once you're here, though, it does feel like you and me, but I'm very happy to turn the recording off if that makes you more likely to want to come on. There's only 8 of you in the room at the moment. Actually, there's 7 of you in the room because Sophie's in here twice. Sarah's put her hand up. Yay, let's. Oh, and Sarah has as well. Oh gosh, I've now got too many people. Sarah put her hand up first. We do have coaching at 10 tomorrow and at 2 on Thursday, if that works. So what I'm going to do is I am going to stop recording. So everyone watching, we're going into coaching now. I hope you found today useful. Make sure you come along to some of the live coaching sessions where you can get more individual support yourselves.